that provide the candidate with time cues. So I'm simply going to have to cut you off, Carl, when you're out of time, okay? So you're ready?
Okay.
Please go ahead and give us your 1-minute opening statement.
I'm Carl Paladino. I'm from Buffalo, New York. Born and raised there. St. Bonaventure University, Syracuse University College of Law, 10 years in the United States Army, and I retired as a captain. I'm running to serve the people of the state of New York for 4 years. 4 years only. During that period of time, I will work to restructure the government. I will work to lower spending, lower taxes, deal with the corruption in our New York State legislature and elsewhere in government. I'll work to lower regulation, business regulation, and individual regulations and rules. And most of all, we will focus all of our attention on jobs and the creation of jobs. The creation of jobs is vital today for all stratas of our citizenry, and it's our desire to take down a ruling class that's presently holding down the fort in Albany, and to deal with it. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to cut you off. You are at the end of 1 minute. It actually goes by quite quickly, as it turns out.
Okay.
So let's get started. I just want to play this ad that you released today. It's at this moment just a web ad, but it speaks to what you were just discussing there, which is government regulation and reining in spending. So let's take a look at that.
Spending is far too high in Albany because the ruling class is out of control. A successful businessman, Carl Paladino, will cut state spending by 20% in his first year as governor. He will evaluate every department and agency of state government for efficiency, effectiveness, and necessity, and cut programs not directly benefiting the taxpayer.
The choice is clear. Paladino for governor.
Well, indeed, that is quite clear. And before I ask you about your details for how you plan on cutting spending, let me just ask, what do you mean the ruling class? It sounds a little bit like class warfare.
Well, it's my feeling that despite the party labels, whether they be Republicans or conservatives or Democrats or working family party or whatever, the rulers of the party, the party elite, like things just the way they are. They like the status quo. We look at the Sheldon Silvers and the John Sampsons and the Smiths and the Pattersons and the Cuomos and the Lazios, and it's all part of that same group of people that want to keep the status quo. They want to keep driving jobs out of this state. They want to keep driving the expansion of these entitlement programs, which are so debilitating to our taxpayers. This stuff has to come to an end. The taxpayers have had enough of this.
Okay, so entitlement programs, I think, but what you mean by that are taxpayer-funded programs such as Medicaid, for example, but there's also other things that are out there. There's public education, of course. There's a massive chunk of the budget. Exactly how would you be cutting spending? Where would you be cutting specifically in the state budget if you were in control?
Well, we're going to look at the state employment rolls, and we're going to try to figure out what 298,341 people are doing on the state employment rolls. We're going to look for their efficiency. We've asked them for suggestions as to how they can do their jobs better, how their agencies can do their jobs better. We're going to look at them, we're going to study them, and we're going to bring down the size of government. We're going to do an efficiency study that will cover all the authorities and all the agencies of government. We're going to go on and look at the ruling class. We're going to look at the people that are holding down jobs and are such a detriment to the morale of our good state employees who are out there trying to do their job, and they have to deal with these political types who have been woven into our government by the politicals of the past, the present, and that these people are not really doing a function. We're going to look at entire agencies like the Adirondack Agency, which in that case is only a $35 million a year agency, but it's significant. We're going to look at DHCR, the Division of Housing and Community Renewal, $900 million a year budget. We're going to take the good things that they do, and we're going to keep them elsewhere in state government. We're going to get rid of these agencies.
Okay.
We're going to disband them totally.
Okay. So first off, you're talking, when you say you're going to look at the entire span of public employees, it sounds to me like you think that layoffs are a possibility, at least reducing the size of the workforce. By how much? Do you have any feeling about that?
About approximately 20%.
So you'd like to cut the state workforce by 20%. There are a number of people that you probably could incentivize to retire. The Patterson administration is trying to do that. But you're going to have to probably fire people as well.
Well, we're working with attrition. We're working with incentives. And in many cases, we're going to just discontinue positions which are not really contributing to the service to the public. And in that case, yes, some people are going to be let go who are good employees. They will be the first to be allowed to come back in positions that have been emptied by attrition. We're not looking to hurt any of the good state employees.
I'm sorry, how can you tell the good state employees from the bad state employees exactly?
Well, we're going to pretty much leave that up to their supervisors to determine who are the worthy, good employees, and we're going to work very closely with personnel specialists on trying to discern the great feedback that we've had from state employees since we sent out that letter last week.
So when you took office, say, on January 1st, would the first thing that you would do is like a wholesale firing of people and then hiring them back, or ask everybody to apply for their own job?
No. When we discontinue positions, they'll be discontinued in the next budget. That budget will start April 1st of the following year.
So let's go on to speak to the budget then. In terms of education and healthcare, which are the two largest areas of spending in the budget, what exactly do you propose cutting from each of those areas?
In the area of education, we're looking to make education more efficient. We're not really looking to cut it. We want, obviously, to have our children be competitive in the world market. We want to expand the school day. We want to expand the school year. But we can certainly find some operating efficiencies in combining up functions and combining efficiencies so that we can get more efficient use of the dollars. I doubt whether we're going to be cutting monies from the primary and secondary education levels. We're looking to stabilize the amount of monies being put into it and find efficiencies in operations. We'll send industrial engineers out to all of the school districts in the state. We'll help them find ways that they can become more efficient in what they do, in cutting the size of their administration and their overhead and their operating expenses. In the case of higher education in SUNY, we're going to be asking SUNY to do a lot of things in-house. We're going to ask them to start becoming more money conscious. We're going to ask them to start charging the actual cost of tuition for non-residents. If we bring somebody into our dental school at University of Buffalo, we charge them tuition in the low 30s. The actual cost of tuition at Penn State is approximately $82,000 a year. At Columbia University, it's about $71,000 a year. Here we've got a better dental program at UB than they have at either of those schools. It's more respected, and we're charging out-of-state residents less than half of what we should be charging them for that education, and that's wrong.
Okay.
Laying that burden on the backs of taxpayers is wrong.
Let me just ask you, you made a statement at one point regarding actually primary education. Quote, take them out of the home, put them in the boarding school, and you can start to condition them to learn. So you basically suggested taking kids out of the home if they weren't performing and sending them to boarding school on state dollars. Is that correct?
Yes. Many of the teachers out there today are complaining that it's very difficult to educate children from dysfunctional homes. I doubt we're going to do much about the dysfunctional homes. Those parents that live in those homes are probably victims of the same dysfunctional urban school districts that their children are victims of today. The only way to get at it is to take those little 6-year-olds on a voluntary basis and put them into residential elementary programs. Arne Duncan is a great supporter of this. So is Mr. Obama. I mean, they have advocated for public residential schools. I'm advocating for public residential schools. We're not going to leave anybody behind anymore. These poor kids, okay, that we take every year and put into dysfunctional school systems have to be brought along with us, and we can't keep leaving them behind.
I'm sorry, wait, I'm sorry. You're saying the Obama administration has proposed sending 6-year-olds to publicly funded boarding school? I don't think I've ever heard that before.
Well, I'll send you some of the articles on it.
Okay, and also, where is the money going to come from for that? Because it sounds very expensive, actually.
Actually, it's not. There's a program out, I believe, in Minnesota that we did inquire about, and they told us that the total cost of room, board, and education for them is approximately $15,000 per child per year. Here in New York State, our urban centers are spending roughly $23,000 a year per child. The cost is all something that we could handle well within the present budgets.
And just to be clear, this would be a voluntary program that you're proposing. It would be people would voluntarily be able to send their children out of state to boarding school on the state dime.
Not out of state, no. We would run these programs in every one of our urban centers.
Oh, I see. Okay.
We have a residential program in our urban center, and that would deal with not only volunteers, but also if the courts should find that children have to be taken from a home for one reason or another because the home is dysfunctional, well then they could also order the child to participate in the program.
And the children would sleep there? It's a boarding school, correct?
Yeah, and then they could go home on weekends or go home when appropriate. But they'd be able to get 3 square meals a day. They'd be dressed correctly. They wouldn't have to deal with these self-esteem problems. And we start educating them at that age when they are most malleable to be conditioned to education. We have to grab them at that 6 and 7 years old, at that young age.
Okay, let's talk briefly about health care.